Now, this weekend, we know there are a lot of elite matchups. Alabama and Georgia are at the top for me. And when you look at this game, I think it points out one of the most beautiful parts about college football is that you can win running totally different systems or having different identities on offense and defense. In the NFL, a lot of people are pretty much running the same stuff in different variations. There's a reason it's called the pro-style offense. But when you look at how Alabama and Georgia have gotten here offensively, they could not be more opposite in the methodology or the ideology that they use to go about scoring points. To put it in perspective, if Georgia and Alabama were actors, their offenses would be labeled in totally different categories. First, Georgia would be a method actor. They're the Daniel Day-Lewis of college football. Now, what do I mean by that? Is that they are consumed by their identity. It does not matter where they're at, who they're playing, or what the score is. They are going to run an offense that is meant to be on time and does not have a lot of improvisation. They are not out there going willy-nilly, running around on the scramble drill, creating plays. Carson Beck's not out there extending the play outside the pocket and letting everything happen in front of them and basically running a play that got drawn up in the dirt or changed mid-play. Georgia does have versatility, though. That doesn't mean they just run the ball to throw it. That doesn't mean they just throw the ball to run it or they're very predictable. They have great protection. They run a gauntlet of an offense that has many different formations. They can pitch backwards. Their best strength is their versatility, but they are not going to change. They have been that way with Carson Beck the whole year. Now, when you look at Alabama, they're basically the opposite when it comes down to how they get their big plays, how they score most of the time, and that's when the play breaks down. They're improvisational. They are the Will Ferrell or the Ryan Stiles of college football. They can go out there, and if the play breaks down, that's when they're at their best. They don't have to go through everything step by step by step, just making the right decisions all the time. It's Jalen Milroe outside of the pocket. It's Jalen Milroe inside the pocket. We've seen games where Alabama's been able to run it. We've seen games where they have not been able to run it. But ever since the LSU game, when they embraced their methodology, when they realized who they were and they tailored the game plan and the identity to Jalen Milroe, they have skyrocketed. Now, last week against Auburn wasn't their best offensive performance, but if there's ever an example of winning while improvising, it was that last drive where Alabama was able to take the lead. But the beauty of college football is that it can work out both ways. We get a ton of exposure from the improvisational offenses and the offenses that are more methodical, or as you could say, a methodic actor like Daniel Day-Lewis. And I, for one, know they're both elite, and I cannot wait to see which methodology wins out at the end. I'm going to bring on David Cone, former Michigan quarterback, who I know is super duper excited about this past weekend. Congratulations, David. And my brother, former Western State Colorado wide receiver, who, like me, was, well, let's just say emotional after Auburn blew it once again in the Iron Bowl at home.
This weekend.
Not super duper excited. David, I want to start with you. When we look at this Alabama game, you look at Georgia coming in. They've gone about it totally different ways. Georgia is a 5-point favorite in Atlanta. I think one of the keys is that we've seen Georgia, and look, the Georgia Tech game, Georgia Tech was able to run the ball. I think Georgia's going to be a little bit different in this game defensively. But the quarterbacks that have given Georgia the most trouble are the quarterbacks that can obviously run. It brings that extra element to it. I expect to see Alabama embrace the quarterback design run more than they have at all this year. This is the SEC championship game. You either win and have a chance to make the playoff, there are no guarantees, or you lose and you have no chance to make there is no saving Jalen Milroe. And we know that the lateral part of the run game with quarterbacks has given Georgia the most trouble. I expect to see a ton of that this weekend. To me, it's a key for Alabama to continue to sustain drives because I don't think Jalen Milroe can sit back there and pick this Georgia secondary apart. And I don't think Alabama's going to be able to line up and just run power and counter right at the teeth of Georgia without Jalen Milroe on the RPO.
Of all the things I was expecting on championship week, the actor analogies was not on the bingo card, but I love it. That's what you're getting that at Crane & Company.
That's
nowhere
exactly
else.
Right.
The method actor.
That's stapled.
I mean, a couple things for both of these teams. Georgia just finished, their third straight regular season undefeated.
I
can't remember the last time they lost a game. I think we were in the College Football Hall of Fame doing a show right
lost to
before
Bama, right?
In Atlanta.
SEC championship game in December, right before they go beat the crap out of Michigan and then avenge that loss to Alabama. And the scariest part is Kirby Smart seems to be his best when he has a month to prepare for the postseason. And yet he's undefeated the last 3 regular seasons. It truly is incredible when you talk about playing an SEC schedule. And it's not like he just went out and got a couple big-time recruits who have carried a team for 3 years in a row and you create some sort of, short little dynasty. I mean, new quarterback this year, new offensive coordinator. I'm watching Todd Monken call plays for Lamar Jackson last night with the Ravens. Mike Bobo comes back in. Half the team he had that won the championship is on the Philadelphia Eagles now, winning in overtime against the Bills. It's truly incredible. And then on the other side of that, we watched Alabama get a shot with Texas. We thought, man, is Texas finally back? Texas comes into Tuscaloosa. They beat Alabama by 10 points. Jalen Monroe turns the football over multiple times. He gets benched. That game against South Florida when Alabama went on the road, it was one of the ugliest performances I've seen from the team. We're all thinking there's no way they run the table, especially with LSU in the West and all these teams in the West. They got to go on the road in the Iron Bowl. There's no way they run the table and make it to the SEC championship game. And that's exactly what they did. I'm not putting a whole lot of stock into the way Georgia played Georgia Tech this weekend or the way Alabama played Auburn in the Iron Bowl, except for one thing. There's something that the Auburn Tigers did, especially in the second half of that game. The first half, Jalen Monroe, like you said, man, he looked like he had the past few weeks. All the growth, man, he was getting through his progressions, tucking at the right time, mobile with his feet. But in the second half of that game, when Auburn really, was confusing him a bit on defense, getting after him, and it was a tight game, you saw him abandon after that first read and try and escape the pocket, the first moment that he could, which is something we saw earlier in the season. It started making me thinking, if it starts getting tight against Georgia late in a game like that, is that the Jalen Monroe we're going to see? Or will he deliver in the last moment like he did in the Iron Bowl, 4th and 31, figure out a way to make a play? I'm particularly interested in that. I like the line a little more at 3 where it opened a week ago.
Agree.
5 seems like a bit much with Nick Saban and the way that Alabama's been playing. What do you think about the line?
Well, look, right now I'm going to let it kind of play out, see how it goes. I'm leaning Georgia early, but here's where, if I'm an Alabama fan, I'd take solace in what you just brought up, David. Jalen Milroe's ability. If I am Tommy Rees against this Georgia team, where I have seen quarterbacks, because Georgia's defense is unbelievably athletic. We know that. They're a top 5 personnel defensive unit in the country when you look at guys that are going to play in the NFL. But I don't think they run as well sideline to sideline as the past 2 Georgia defenses have, especially up front. I think Jalen Milroe's escapability, I think he does need to be first read, second read, I'm gone. I think they need to utilize that. I think they need to utilize his improvisational skills, because I don't think they're going to be able to line up and sit here and run different combinations at Georgia's secondary all day and have Jalen Milroe pick them apart. As crazy as it sounds, I would rather in this game have Jalen Milroe take off after the first read. If he reads man in his back turn, I think they'll get more big plays out of that than anything. Because again, I would be shocked if you saw a ton of gap scheme run by Alabama against Georgia. What do I mean by that? Basically, runs designed where Jalen Milroe cannot keep the ball. I think everything will be built through RPO and zone reads, and they'd be smart to do that because that has given Georgia the most trouble. But on the other side, Blaine, you look at Georgia's offense going against Alabama's defense. Number one, nobody's been able to get to Carson Beck. Nobody's been able to touch him. I don't think Alabama's pass rush, even with Dallas Turner, can touch him. I think this offensive line from Georgia is the top 3 unit in the country, and they've only gotten healthier and healthier. But Carson Beck doesn't run very well. Not that he's unathletic or that he can't run, but you don't have to worry about Carson Beck pulling the ball at all if you're Alabama, right? There is one variable that is out of the equation. There is no Peyton Thorne. There is no Haynes King, right? You can go. There is no even Joe Milton that can somewhat run. So if you're Alabama, I think the biggest advantage you have is the ability of Jalen Milroe to not only run the ball by quarterback design, but run the scramble drill on the outside, hit a couple big plays, maybe extend a couple drives on 3rd and 8, because he's still the most athletic guy on the field. I would take Jalen Milroe's athleticism over anybody on Georgia's defense. I just would when the ball's in his hands and he's going forward.
Well, what do we know? One thing Georgia's defense has always been good at, one that's tackling in space.
Yeah.
They're one of the best teams in the nation in tackling in space. You go look at that Georgia Tech game, didn't do a great job of it. But you look at their offense, what was missing from Georgia? No Ladd, no Brock, no Rah-Rah, no Rutledge. A lot of kids out, they threw it, I think, 10 to 12 times less than they usually do. They scored 30 points the last 7 games in total, and they're only getting better and better. Carson Beck, they're one of the best third down teams in the nation.
They are the best third down.
The best third down team in the nation. They stay on schedule all the time. And Bama's shown, if anything, Georgia, you're excited. Bama can show they can get beat between the tackles. They showed that against Auburn. Auburn ran the football. That's what they did the entire game. I looked at one thing. It's halfway through the third quarter, and Peyton Thorne has 20 passing yards. And Georgia's only doing what? And running the football, getting better and better and better. So that could be a huge difference. Carson Beck's legs is not going to be a big thing. I don't think they're going to be able to get to Carson Beck, and he's too calm and collected in the pocket. Jalen Milroe needs to have the most carries on this football team for Alabama.
I agree with that.
I really think he does. The one thing that can hurt a Georgia defense that is super athletic, right, is that extra runner in the boxes. You have to account for him. And there's not a good enough player one-on-one in space, in my opinion, that'll be able to tackle Jalen Milroe. But if anything, you take a note out of the Auburn playbook on the defense. You don't rush past him, all right? You stay integrity up front.
Yep.
You stay in front of him, and you make him beat you with tight passes, which he can throw sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's the way you have to beat Bama.
Yeah, well, and we want to know what you think. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. But I think when you're looking at Alabama's defense, last week against Auburn, they had to worry about Peyton Thorne. Peyton Thorne was showing you that he was willing to keep the ball. Thought he should have kept it more in the first half. But with Carson Beck, I'm not worried about that. Georgia's not lining up and running zone read the whole game. They're not sitting here and running. The RPOs they're running don't involve Carson Beck running. It's, hey, maybe I'll read the slot corner or the nickel, whatever you call them, and I'll keep it and spit it to the slot. But he's not keeping it and running around the edge. You're not getting influence one way and Carson Beck keeping it and going the other way. It takes a huge variable out. It takes the eye manipulation out of it. But when I look at Georgia, Alabama has shown you multiple times this year that you can stop their run. You can limit their run. They've been up and down, even in this renaissance they've had since the LSU game. Obviously, Jalen Milroe's ability to run has helped out the running backs, but if you've got to start with, it's just like facing the triple option to me. You've got to kill the dive first. If you're playing Alabama, you have got to stop the running backs first, and then you get to Jalen Milroe. You have to beat them level by level. You can't just throw everything at once. You stop the run, you limit Jalen Milroe's ability to run, you get him in third and predictable passing downs, and then you go get him. The difference between Auburn and Georgia is Georgia has cats that could get Jalen Milroe on the ground. Auburn could run and get close to him, but they couldn't get him on the ground. They're not good enough. That's why you saw on that 3rd and 20, he's able to scramble. Jalen Milroe was able to scramble whenever he wanted to against Auburn because Auburn's personnel is very average on defense. It's the truth. Like women lie, men lie, numbers don't lie. Auburn's diving and sliding. And Jalen Milroe makes a lot of guys look average athletically. But Georgia does have the guys that can not only get there, but they have a chance to bring them down, something that Auburn could not do.
So do we know the status yet for Brock Bowers or Ladd McConkey?
Got to be playing. Got to be
But are
playing.
they, I mean, was last week just a precautionary?
I think
so.
I
think
was.
somewhat, especially for those two. Ra Thomas, I'm not 100% on. But if anything, you felt like with a 24.5-point spread walking into that game against Georgia Tech, you didn't have to put Brock and Ladd out there to go win that football game.
Yeah.
I think, if anything, you protect those guys that week because you got to have them in this game. This is a must to have in this game to beat this team. Because look, how many times has Kirby beat Nick in Atlanta?
not a lot.
Zero times. He still has to, look, I know they're back-to-back national champions, all right? But they still have to win this game in Atlanta, and they proved they haven't yet. So you need all the weapons in the arsenal to go against the Godfather and Nick Saban.
Definitely. Well, I'm interested to see where this line goes. Looking at it, DraftKings right now, Georgia's a 5-point favorite. The money's actually on them. It's at -112. The over-under is at 56. YouTube, it's good to see you again. If you're hanging around, why don't you hit that subscribe button? Hit that like button. Turn that notification bell on, too, so you can ring that thing like Quasimodo every time we drop content, except you're way better looking.